Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another episode of B is for Did I mess up the name of my own show? Cut! Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome to another episode of B is for Build. How did I do that? Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of B is for Build. I'm Chris, over there is Kyle, coming soon is Oscar. We're the team, the A-team. I'm gonna make it through this. Welcome to another episode of B is for Build, guys. In today's episode, we are going to be mounting our turbos. To do that, you kind of got to build the exhaust manifold. So we're going to build some turbo exhaust manifolds, mount our turbos so they stick out the rear hatch of the Huracan. The craziest turbo mounting in a Huracan in the history of the world. I'm in a good mood today, if you can't tell. And we're gonna go ahead and mount the body. Now that we have a body, we're gonna go ahead and mount it. Side skirts, rear quarter panel, rear bumper. So basically from the doors back, we are gonna hard mount those things. You know, because it should be hard, because if it was soft, it might move. We're gonna mount those things onto the car. So they have their permanent living space and we got all our pretty body lines and everything. It's gonna be a fun one, guys. Stay tuned. Before we get started with work, I want to take a second out to thank our sponsor. Today's episode is sponsored by the mobile game Raid Shadow Legends. Not every RPG game has to be all cartoony and fluffy and cutesy. Raid Shadow Legends will bring you into a dark, realistic fantasy realm. For those of you that don't know, Raid Shadow Legends is a brand new free-to-play collection RPG game. You can collect over 400 champions, you can collect orcs or undead knights or elves or others, and you can explore more than 1 million different champion builds spread across 13 different awesome locations. And while you're playing, you can enjoy a fully voiced over story campaign. Also, there is a PvP arena, which I like. And the best part is it's free to play. Just check out the details on these champions. The graphics are really, really good in this game. What I love about this game is that everyone can find something to do from themselves. Some love collecting characters, some people like the deep storylines and the graphics, but personally, I like combat. I like the live combat against other players and the PvP aspect of this game. Raid is growing super fast and the very anticipated new update is now live, and there's new awesome rewards program for new players. They get a daily login reward for the first 90 days that you play the game. So what are you waiting for? Guys, click the link down below in the description. If you use my special link right down below, you're gonna get started with 50,000 silver for free, and you're gonna get a free epic champion. Get you started on your way a little bit faster as part of the new player program. So guys, click the link. Huge thanks to Raid for sponsoring this episode. Now let's get down to work. All right, so getting started, the side skirts are actually the only pieces that bolt on in the stock locations. So this is our piece to start from, and then we have to kind of, you know, use that as a reference point, and then we have several other reference points like here and up here. You know, this obviously needs to match. So those are what we're gonna work from, but we gotta start from the side skirts. So we're gonna be removing all this rear body paneling stuff, set it aside, install both side skirts, and then we can start from there. While Oscar is working on installing those side skirts and moving on to how to mount those side pieces, you're going to see me today working on the exhaust manifold leading to the turbo, basically trying to figure out where we're going to mount our turbos on this build. So let me show you kind of the game plan for that. We're starting with a stock shorty exhaust manifold that's meant to run down like this. These are stainless steel. We're gonna build all of our exhaust out of stainless steel. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna flip it up, and then from there we're gonna modify, cutting the top of it off, extending it up, building a spot for our wastegate, and then the flange to mount the turbo to it. For turbos, this build is very proudly sponsored by Garrett, and I'm super, super happy to have them on board for this build. So we have Garrett 3528R Gen 2s, and we have 2 of them for this build, and they are indeed mirrored. I know that was a big question a lot of you guys had after seeing the rendering episode. Yes, they are mirrored. They look absolutely phenomenal, and these are the largest AR that they have. Our exhaust side is the 1.01, so these are the big dogs in that spec. So huge thanks to Garrett for hooking us up with these, and we really hope to be working with you guys in the future on more builds or continuing to upgrade this build as we reach for higher horsepower goals. Guys, here's all their social medias. If you have a minute, go give them a follow, drop a comment, say thanks for sponsoring B is for Build. If you appreciate as much as I do having these guys be partnered with us on this build, it really means a lot to have the best quality products on this build, and I'm super stoked. So huge thanks to Garrett, guys, and there's going to be a link as well in the description of their website if you want to pick up some products. So now what I got to do is I'm going to go ahead and test fit our exhaust manifold, and that way I can figure out where I want to cut it and what type of piping I need to run to get our turbos where we want them. On the exhaust side of the world, I've got my exhaust manifold going up, and I know where I need to cut that. I've got some stainless steel pipe. We're gonna try and do pretty much a straight shot up, but I can't measure how high until I get the hatch in here and then the turbo kind of placed relative to the hatch, and then we can do some measurements. And that's gonna be a real tricky one because we wanna make the turbo stick out just enough, but not too much. Also, it might mean completely rebuilding this hatch mechanism because the turbo's exhaust is running kind of right into it. And right now the game plan is to run the exhaust through here and then back out and around, which will be really cool. Over here, guys got the side skirts totally installed and everything's looking really clean, and Oscar is starting to mark out where he's going to need to build supports for the Zeus tabs here and up there. We've got our hatch on, and to figure out the height of the hatch, so there's some play in this. You can see we can move it up and down. We need to use the quarter panel, but the Super Trofeo quarter panel uses a different hatch, and that hatch kind of interlinks with the quarter panel. This one doesn't because it's much thicker. So this is our first mod to our Super Trofeo parts. We got to go ahead and trim this edge very, very, very carefully and clean to get this tab off of here. We're gonna have to do that on both of them too. So I just finished with the exhaust manifold. We trimmed it, and it's a nice fit for our circular piece. We're gonna have to fill in the edges, but that's no problem. Then we're going up just about 12 inches to hit the height that we want, so the turbos stick out the hood. Now a lot of you guys mentioned, oh yeah, if you flip your turbos around, they'll get a bunch more air and stuff like that too. The biggest problem with that is that they're gonna get all the road debris and everything that flies over the hood. So dust, small rocks, everything like that. If you ram the air in that way, you flip it around and it's much less likely. So although I don't expect this thing to be like on a street in traffic a lot, I would love if the car is built good enough to be able to handle that and to be able to like be a more daily driver style thing. So we're building that way. Plus this exhaust that bends around is going to be really cool. It's going to add a really unique look to it. So I'm not at all like worried about it. We don't have to worry about heat in this engine bay. We have basically 1/4 of a bumper, less than half of a hatch, and we have a million vents coming in here. The amount of air that's going to fly through this engine bay is going to be more than any front engine car that has a bay, basically. I mean, it's gonna be crazy, so I'm really not worried about it. Now, Oscar is working on the standoff, so we need to extend the frame up to be able to Zeus tab into the rear bumper and into the quarter panel here, so he's gonna get those all set up and then weld them in. All right, you saw us throw on the body and take it back off. We were test fitting different things and we made some minor adjustments, but Oscar's basically got the beginning part of the standoffs ready for this is where the Zeus tabs are gonna go into. He's got those all tacked in place, and I cut and placed our up pipe for the turbos. This does look crazy right now, but don't worry, once it gets more populated in here, it won't look so insane. It won't look so tractory. So we got that tube in there. Now this is stainless steel, so you want to back purge the whole thing before you weld it up. That way you don't get a bunch of crap and porosity on the inside of the weld. But rather than doing that, Oscar's got this fancy stuff called solar flux that we're going to go ahead and apply. So that thing's just sitting there right now. We're going to go ahead and pop it off, put solar flux all through the inside of it, and then weld it up. Well, we're going to be tack welding it up right now. All right, we got the solar flux in there, and Oscar threw some tacks on there for me. And now I'm gonna go ahead and modify the top so it'll accept the V-band flange, and it'll be all ready for the turbo to be straight in line with the car like this, and then also straight horizontally. So I'm hoping with the car kind of like it is right now at ride height, that what you'll see is the turbo that'll look nice and straight and level to kind of the horizon. So we gotta get that thing in there, and then we'll tack weld that, and then that'll be ready to be popped off and fully welded out. While I'm doing that, Oscar's going to be working on a mounting bracket for the side skirt. So it has a mounting point right here. It's kind of a technical hard spot because we have a cooler that also is going to go here. That's what all these vents are going to go straight to a cooler. So we got to kind of, the stock one kind of came out like this, like from back here and kind of straight up. We don't want to block the Zeus tabs from the other panel bolting into it, but we got to get it all nice and strong right here. Oscar wrapped up installing this cooler, and then it's also, you know, all integrated into that massive bracket that holds the side skirt. So this cooler is probably going to be used to cool our turbos, which is really cool. Get it? Really cool. Anyways, and then now Oscar is moving on over to this side to build the bracket to hold the side skirt and make room for extra coolers. We have a lot of coolers that have to be installed. Turbo, oil, transmission, air to water, intercooler, heat exchanger, a bunch of stuff. So what I was working on is the exhaust, and it all started to really go sideways once I moved over to the other side, because if you'll notice how this one fits, the clearance between the valve cover and everything, it was really perfect and it was going really well. This one was not symmetrical. They were not a symmetrical set. I don't know if that was like a factory oopsie or what. I mean, this wasn't the most expensive set of exhaust manifolds. But I did think they were symmetrical, and I totally didn't think about testing both sides before I got started. So once I got in there wasn't enough space. They were hitting the valve cover, so I was hammering away, made clearance for that, got it all set up and made it work. And then when we stood back and we just looked at it, it was like this, for the caliber, for such an expensive engine, we really don't want to have a look like this where they're mismatched. So we hit the brakes. We made an order on Amazon. I ordered 4 different sets of exhaust manifolds to test out, and they will be here tomorrow. So we'll have those, and then we can kind of finish this setup right here. So we're starting over basically from scratch. Yeah, soon. So I'm moving over to carbon fiber stuff that's you're going to see in another episode, and Oscar is going to just have all the space in the world to work and all that stuff, so he can bust this out, and we'll get everything ready to be mounted up. Also got the side skirts permanently mounted up, and then he threw the rear quarters on, the rear bumper on. Now we got to go ahead and throw the rear hatch on, and he's going to adjust everything around, and he can find out where the drill points go for these mounts. He's already got those ones all set up, and then he can fully weld this thing out. Oscar's finished the mounts, so this is all like officially mounted together, except for the rear hatch. But the rear quarters, the rear bumper, everything's all on the body now and all square. Yes, the ride height is a little high. We do need to lower this car down a little bit is what we're learning. So that's going to involve modifying the oil pan and some other things, but that's fine. It's a little scary down there, but it will be fine. So yeah, all the panels are together. Now Oscar's got to pop them all off and fully weld out all the tabs that we built and the standoffs. And then that part of the puzzle is done. This is really cool because that allows us to get started on the Keisel's designed wide body over fender stuff. I can get started on that pretty quickly now. But now, once he welds that out, then the next step is we're going to get our new exhaust manifolds, our new headers, and start throwing them on there so we can build our turbo mounts. Oscar finished welding in the tabs. Those are fully welded in, and we had to do a little bit of cutting back to make sure our tail lights fit, so that's all set. And it is a new day in the shop, so now we could take these junkers off, and we have 4 boxes. I bought 4 different sets of exhaust manifolds, and we're going to open them up right now. We're going to test fit them and figure out the best ones. The real focus for today is we're going to team up. We're going to work on the exhaust manifolds and building some fake axles. I'll get into that a little bit later, but we're going to work on getting these exhaust manifolds done so our turbos can get mounted by the end of the day. So let's get started. Alright, so here's the rundown. This pair got pretty close, but you can see they're not mirrored, and that side's a lot different, and it was causing a lot of issues, pushing the turbo outlet way too far past the area of where we wanted to go. This set was the exact same as that set that we ordered before. It's kind of weird because we ordered from 2 different places, but that doesn't matter. And this set didn't fit because they were hitting the valve covers. So we really got a close eye on this set. Now, obviously, we can't do it like this. We had a good laugh about the idea of the turbos being completely different and having the intakes go straight up out the back of the hatch. But we're not going to do that. So we are going to start hacking these apart and see if we can modify them in a very BS for build way that will look clean but get our turbo placement the same. So we might trash these on accident, or we might make something awesome, or we might make a cut and realize it's impossible, but we're not going to know until we try. So we're going to take these off right now, and we're probably going to be making a cut around there and spinning the 4-to-1 collector around and stuff like that and see what we can do. Fingers crossed. We got to work some magic here. The single cut and kind of rotate idea wasn't really going to work because we weren't going to be able to weld around everything. So we're going full send. We're basically using this as scrap metal. We will move on and use the rest of these as scrap metal if we need to, and we're just going to build exactly what we need, which is pretty cool. It's going to take a lot more time than we expected, but hopefully we could still bust it out today. So everything gets cut off the flange, and then Oscar and I are going to kind of redesign it to go into a 4-to-1. One interesting thing though, this might seem a little bit wasteful doing it this way, but if we use this and those and all 5 sets of exhaust headers that I had already bought out of stainless steel, it is somehow, I don't really know how, but it's still the same price as buying one single stainless steel exhaust manifold kit. If you were to buy a kit that comes with a couple bends and a couple straights and everything like that. And all those bends are like only 90, so then you get a seam here and then a straight and then a seam here and then a current and a seam here. So it's actually, in a weird way, cheaper to buy all this stainless and then use it. It's probably a quality difference. That's probably a bit why, like a reason why, but this will definitely work for us. So it's somewhat wasteful, but also somewhat not at the same time. All right, well, Oscar is working on getting a couple versions of that tack together. I'm gonna start working on our axles. I'm using air quotes because these are not our real axles. What we're really trying to do is we're just gonna build something that's more of a measurement tool. It's going to be an example and a measurement tool. So what we're going to do is, so you have Huracan on one side, and on the other side you need Gallardo, and that axle doesn't exist. So what I want to do is make some temporary axles that'll allow this thing to roll around. You can't really like drive it at speed, but it'll be able to roll. So we can use them if we need to for just kind of driving around the shop. But also then I can take that axle and ship it off to any company, or if there's somebody the local that can do it, we can just hand it to them and be like, here's our exact measurement, and here's the ends that we need. Can you build this thing? So what we got to do is we got to cut the Huracan axle that's too short, take a Gallardo axle, cut that as well. Then we're going to build a sleeve onto it. We're going to center those things inside the sleeve as well as we can, and we're going to weld them up. So I'm going to go ahead and get all these things cut. Alright, so we went a fully like custom direction on all of this, and it came out really, really good. Oscar did a great job of getting everything in here to get ready for a 4-into-1. So this is kind of the cut line where Oscar's going to cut, and then we're going to build the collector. We're going to connect them all together, build a collector, and then we're going to have a single tube that runs up to our exhaust flange. We'll bust one out, and then hopefully we'll be able to jump on the other one and tackle it pretty quickly. I cut our axles down to size, so the next thing that I'm going to be doing is building some shims so we can center these around the sleeve, cut the sleeve, and then I'll be welding these all together as long as they're the right size. Trimming and then welding. All right, guys, well, it is a new day. Unfortunately, we did not finish the exhaust, man. We didn't even finish one side of the exhaust. So I apologize, this episode's taken a while to come out, but we've been working a lot of days on this. Here's where Oscar got to on the exhaust manifold. So we did a 4, got the 4, got them cut, got the 4-into-1 tacked in there, and then now it's ready to, we're gonna make a chop right here. We're gonna close this down a little bit, and we're gonna run, this is like about a 3. We're gonna go down to a 2.5, and we're gonna go 2.5, curve it in to where we want our flange to be, which is right about here, our flange mounting point, oh sorry, right there. So I'm gonna be working on that, but yesterday night I finished the axles, which are not finished, you know. So all these are good for are a couple small things. One, we have now an exact measurement of how long we want our axles. Two, if we wanted to just use them to roll the car around, you obviously can't drive at speed with these things because they're gonna be misbalanced and they'll eventually break and stuff like that. But mainly I did this all for the measurement. So now I could, in theory, take this down to a local axle shop if there's anybody around here that can locally build me something strong enough to handle the power of this car, or we could ship these out to somebody and then they'll have an exact measurement and they'll know the flanges and everything that we need on the end to connect up. So axles are done. That's done. So Oscar's at his day job right now. I'm going to focus on the exhaust stuff. I'm going to kind of jump in here and get a head start, so when he comes in, hopefully we'll be in a better spot and we can finish up tonight. So my job is going to be making a cut here, reducing this down, cutting our 2.5 inch pipe that comes up here, and hopefully that goes well. All right, we got that cut, and then I picked my angled piece of tubing, kind of trimmed that down to shape, and tacked that in there. And that's about as far as I want to go until we get the other side ready, because I want to have a little bit more adjustability rather than like building that all the way out. And then when we build this one, if it's not exactly kind of mirrored or something like that, we want to change one thing to match the other, I'd rather have the option available. So now it's time to jump into this one. So what I'm going to be doing is basically cutting it apart, cutting it into pieces, preparing the flange, and getting the pieces kind of all separated and the collector off as well. Alright, I got all the runners cut off, got this thing cleaned up, made an attempt at doing some different things. I actually even tacked one on there and then checked it out. I didn't really like the placement of it. So, like I said earlier, I really didn't want to risk ruining you know, all the progress that Oscar had made and did such a great job. So I waited until Oscar got here. Oscar is now here. We're going to go ahead and pull off this exhaust manifold so we can have it over there to look at to try and help mirror it. It's one thing to build one, but then to build the other one to match it is like doubly hard. So it's gonna be really tough. But I'll be helping him with all the like kind of monotonous stuff of like getting faces, making the cuts, getting the faces flat, and all that other stuff that I can help with. All right, Oscar just wrapped up welding out the second exhaust manifold. We actually both ran into the same kind of problem when we were planning. We didn't really ideally want it to kind of go like this, so we're gonna have to get pretty creative and spend some time making sure that we get our 4-to-1 collector after we make the cut here to kind of start going in the right direction we want. It's gonna be a really challenging thing, but there was absolutely no other way to really assemble this without kind of having it kind of go that way. So we put the time into it, it's all welded out. Now we're gonna go ahead and make that cut, you know, bring it over to the car, test it out, get it fit up right, get that 4-to-1 collector on there, and then we'll make our second bend as well, so we can make sure that we're getting both the turbos mounted in the same spot the same way. Passenger side manifold is ready to rock. So Oscar went ahead and got the 4-to-1 collector on there, got it all cut, and I mean, he pulled off a miracle. They're not supposed to look identical, but they're supposed to both come kind of out in the same way, and he did an amazing, amazing job. So from here, we're using this 20-degree bend. We have 2 of these. We're gonna, limit this down a little bit, do the 20-degree bend, do the 20-degree bend, then we'll mount our V-band flanges, and we'll be able to mount the turbos into the car for the first time. It's gonna look so awesome. So Kyle and I have already started on the second of the next episodes. We've been working ahead and letting Oscar do his thing. So he's just gonna bring this one home, and we'll help him with like just holding some stuff for him, but we're gonna let him solo the rest of this. So he's gonna go ahead and bust it out right now. The turbos are mounted. Oscar did an amazing job. These look so much better, kind of really naturally coming up with the longer things than that little 4-to-1 with the straight up thing. These look phenomenal. Oscar did a great job. So you can see that our cold pipes are gonna come down and then forward, where we're gonna go into an air to water intercooler and then back right into the intake manifold. And it looks fantastic, but it looks even better with the rear quarters on. So we're just gonna go ahead and lay the rear quarters onto the car real quickly, and we'll show you how it's gonna look, because it gives you an idea of kind of what level is and how much of the turbo is gonna stick out of the rear hatch. So with these rear quarter panels on, you can see, like, if we were to draw a line, like, that's how much turbo is gonna stick out, which is exactly how much we wanted. So when we have some sort of a hatch on here, if we have any sort of a hatch or whatever, you'll see the body line and these are like right in line with the rear hatch body line. There's kind of like this roof line that goes through there. I don't know what the camera's focused on. There's a roof line, and then there's a hatch body line that comes on back, and then these are in the center of that, and then they're just gonna peek out. It's like about that much, and above is gonna be showing coming out the back. It's gonna be phenomenal. So Oscar killed it on this one. He did a phenomenal job building completely custom turbo exhaust manifolds out of basically cutting up another one. Did an amazing job. We still have some finished welding to do, but we really wanted to get this episode out for you guys. So here it is. We have mounted the turbos in the car. Thank you guys so much for watching this episode. Huge thanks to Garrett for supplying us with those turbos. This is obviously looking insane, and I cannot wait for this thing to progress. If you guys want to help out and support these builds, head over to bsforbuild.com, pick up some of our merch while it's in stock, and that's about it, guys. Thank you so much. Please remember to subscribe if you want to see the rest of this build, and I'll see you soon. Peace! Come on.